Oh, like now?
Yeah, like now.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live stream. This is something new for me. I think it's really cool that we can do this. I am with Hank Setala and Ronald Boyd, and we are going to be talking about um, our meditation that we did and our show that we did and the collaborations that we've done and all kinds of good stuff. So, hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you for setting all this up, Hank. I appreciate it. Good
Yeah.
to see you guys again.
And for those of you just tuning in or tuning in later on the replay, we're going to be talking for a little bit, and then we're going to play the actual about an hour long video, but we're breaking it up. So we're going to play like the first half, which is all of us talking, and Michelle did a wonderful job over a long period of time editing the video, and it came out wonderfully. And we'll come back then for like questions and comments and things like that, and then we're going to play the meditation. But we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. Why don't you tell us what the event was that we collaborated on initially, and then it kind of unfolded into this whole production?
Yeah, great. So I was doing full moon meditations, and I thought it would be really great to have Hank come and do the crystal bowls for the Crystal Skull full moon meditation. And then I was talking with Ron, and he was telling me about the work that he's done with goddess energy and the history of all that. And it just occurred to me that it would be really interesting and super informative to put together an event where Ron did a presentation on the goddess energy, and then we called in the goddess energy for the meditation, and Hank played the crystal bowls to kind of bring that energy full circle. And that was a while ago. That was in 2018. And then wildly, we just decided, let's film it and see what happens. And we didn't really know what we were doing. We just thought, okay, let's do it. And we got this video. And over the course of 2 years, we refilmed and re-edited and all this. And eventually it became the show that it is today. And I'm very proud of it. I thought I loved working with Ron and Hank. I loved the production that we put on, the event that we put on, and I got really good feedback from it, from everyone. And it was really fun to work with you guys.
It was fun working with both of you too. And you don't get to see like the setup of the actual night, but for the sound bath, it kind of was set up like this, but in a different location where we had all the bowls set up and people could lay down and really get comfortable. And then I just did the bowls real soft while Michelle did a meditation. But before all of that, Ron did like a huge presentation on goddesses and kind of like the history over time of how the goddess and worshiping the goddess and using the goddess in everyday life kind of evolved from what it was to what it is today.
Yeah, there was a period where it just disappeared almost from society, and it's like, why did that disappear? And then why does the divine feminine seem to be returning now? So,
awesome. Well, I think it's about time. Sorry, biased, but
yeah,
I think it's due for a comeback.
Definitely.
So
the patriarchy hasn't fixed anything, so it's time for somebody else to take it back.
I'd say so. I think so. I think it's time for women to come in and have their voices heard and put that maternal energy and nurturing energy into things. Not to say that men don't have that, because we all have male and female energy, but I think it's time that that we all accessed our feminine energy and became bad. I was going to say, I'm sorry, I was going to say something and I thought maybe I can't say that word.
Well, you can say anything, whether or not the powers that be like it for serving it up is another story, but you can say whatever you want.
Well, she's not going to let us suppress her.
Bad biatches. Let's go.
Oh.
What have you guys been doing since then?
Sorry, your vocal cut out for a second. What have you what?
Oh, I was saying, what have you guys been up to since then?
Well, for me, just taking it one day at a time, recreating my business with the whole world of COVID, which I don't know if I told you, I had this amazing acronym come to me from Spirit, which is creating opportunities via intuiting divinity. And to really, like, with the world on pause, people really being able to get centered and get in touch with that inner spark and start to manifest, actualize that inner star. So that's kind of been my focus, is going in and redoing everything.
I like it. What about you, Ron? What have you been up to?
Well, in 2019, I had traveled out to Arizona and I stayed with a Hopi for a while, and I was working on a project to help raise money for one of their like traditional ceremonial houses and so forth, related to one of their deities. And then I also was president of Emerging Hearts Spiritual Center, finished up that term, and I've been doing like a lot of Zoom meetings and presentations for like various congregations and doing interviews with some of the Native American elders. And so forth. So,
Are they interviews that you have filmed, or are they interviews that you just do like in person, take notes or record? How do
there's
you?
some I've actually recorded and edited. I still have some that I need to finish editing and so forth. So I just haven't really published them yet. So yeah, and there's like a local professor here from Welch University. I did some presentations with him as well. So, like we did one on black elk. So it's kind of like we've all heard, like there's a story of Black Elk Speaks, but then there's the question of what happened in his life after that. And he actually had converted to Catholicism, and he was being considered for sainthood within Catholicism as well. So we were talking about that. That was pretty interesting.
That sounds neat. Where can we see this? Where will you put this up? Like, where can we check it out to see when you're
I
ready?
have a YouTube channel. It's Mystic Spirit Presentations. I think it's listed Mystic Spirit Prez, PREZ. I just there some of them are uploaded. I just haven't published them yet. So that would be, and they can follow my webpage, Mystic Spirit Presentations, on Facebook, and I have some presentations I've done on there. And I'm kind of a bit of an environmental activist, so I post a lot of things related to the environment and our relationship with it and so forth. So
Awesome. I'm excited to see that.
And when we play the video, I'll try to, or if you find that link, I can post it in the comments for people that want to connect with that. So while we play the longer video, and we can get that set up so people can, I want to check that out too. I've recommended the book Black Elk Speaks countless times, and I didn't know half of what you just said about him. So obviously I haven't read the book well enough.
Yeah. It's actually, it's probably something, a lot of people are familiar with that book, but they would not be familiar with the history, that occurred afterwards and so forth in his life and so on. So, and I think it's interesting to see like the blending of those cultures. There's another book that I read called The Pipe and the Christ, which is, I think, like some Catholic priests who are having like a 5-year dialogue with some of the Lakota Sioux and comparing their beliefs and so forth. So, yeah, really fascinating.
Wow, that sounds cool. Well, I have been studying mediumship, which has been really interesting to me, and being connected with the other side of things, and being able to hear from people who have crossed over. It's been fascinating, and the evidential part of it has been incredible to be able to bring through evidence for people that who they've asked to speak to is actually who they're speaking to, because I wouldn't know that information. I'd been told that I was able to do things like that, and I just never pursued it until last year. And this year I'm doing a mentorship program with a medium in the UK for a year, and I'm really loving it. I've met such great people from all over the world, and every time it's something different. Every time we get together and we practice like crazy, it's something different, and different people come through, and we've had mentors come through, teachers come through. Arthur Finley came through the other day from the Arthur Finley College in the UK. That was amazing. It's just been really like it's opened up a whole new world for me, and I'm excited to implement that into all the other different things that I do.
Very good. So anything else before we start our little video? I don't know how long we want to talk.
I think we should start the video and you know.
Cool. So for clarity, the video that we're about to play, this was what was filmed back in 2018 and just recently was released on the public television show down in Brunswick. And so this part is pre-recorded. So I just want full disclosure for Facebook Live folks that, we're not doing this next part live, but stay tuned because right after the midway part of this video, we're going to come back, and if you have questions, comments about what is being seen, we're going to take those questions and comments and talk a bit. And then after that, we will play the actual meditation that we did in 2018. So I hope everyone enjoys.
Yes.
The event that we'll be talking about today occurred on June 28th, 2018, and it was a full moon meditation that we did with the goddess Kuan Yin. This particular event was very, very special because I was fortunate enough to be able to collaborate with some really amazing people. One of the people that I had the great honor to work with on June 28th was Hank Sedula. Now, Hank is known as the Sonic Shaman, and he had these amazing crystal healing bowls and crystal pyramids, and it was just really a blessing to work with him.
And before I got into the whole shamanism and sound aspect, I had founded a company called Holistic Health and Healing with the entire idea of operating out of space of cooperation and not competition. And it was wonderful to be invited from Michelle to participate in the experience today.
Another one of the people that I had the good fortune to work with on this event was Ronald Boyd, who is the creator of Mystic Spirit Productions. Ronald travels all over and does speaking engagements on various historical topics. For this particular evening, he was gracious enough to enlighten us about the history of goddess energy from when goddesses were actually revered throughout the time when they were suppressed and into present day.
This is going to be derived from the book by late Dr. Leonard Shlain. It's called The Alphabet versus the Goddess. What he talks about in the book is that there was a period of time where there was balance between, it wasn't just all this masculine patriarchy that and at one point in time goddess worship was very prevalent, very prominent. Now more than ever, it's important for us to restore balance to the earth because of what we're doing to it. And this is all part of that process for us returning to honor the divine feminine in all its forms. I have a Facebook page. It's under Mystic Spirit Presentations. So if you go there, you can follow my page and you can communicate with me through there.
Well, I just want to welcome you guys here today. Hank and Ron, thanks for joining me. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the two of you actually do. So, Hank, this is your altar. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, this is a Peruvian style altar, and just one clarification too, the word shaman is an umbrella term in the United States and in English. It's referring to one specific tradition out of the Siberian region of Russia, and then everything else that's native is all lumped under the same word, shamanism. So this is actually the Paco tradition of Peru. Paco means nature mystic, and this is a blend of a coastal tradition and a mountain tradition that I practice called the Qatari tradition of cross-cultural shamanism. But the point of the altar is each section of the space all correlates to different nature spirits. So you have Pachamama, which is Mother Earth, you have Mama Unu, which is Mother Water, Waira, the wind, Inti, the sun. And it is a way that you set this space up as a reflection of your own soul. That you can, even as you're building it, sometimes you can tell that as you're placing things, something feels off, and it gives you a hint of where you can do the work, or who around you is going to be needing maybe a healing from one of the sections or whatnot. But the entire purpose of it is to put yourself into a state where you have an awareness and a allowance of communicating with the spirits and the upper world.
Nice. Well, it's very beautiful. Do you have specific things? I mean, you chose these things for particular reasons.
Well, when you in this tradition, when you do what's called the Hatan Karpai, means the great initiation, one of the things that your teacher does is there's these 5 energy centers in the body. Similar to chakras, but they're different. It's more like a lens of energy that opens and closes. And so after you've been initiated and you've had your experience with the earth, they say from your Cusco, from your navel, your connection with Mother Earth, send it out and find a stone. And so you follow the energy, and then you find, like my Pachamama stone, which is there is a stone from Alaska that followed the energy, and I'm like, this is my Mother Earth stone. And you do the same thing with the shell, and you do the same thing with each koya that you find. You're connecting with that energy center and allowing yourself to be led to what stone is calling to you, which has the medicine for you to be on this path.
Oh, interesting. And so what's the purpose of your altar? How do you use this?
Well, part of it is for inner reflection and the purpose of working with people. People spend years getting screwed up. And some people have the point of view that if I spent 20 years getting myself unhealthy and in this place, you have to spend an equal amount of time getting better, right? So part of shamanism, I say the shaman is a showman. The healing could happen in 30 seconds with the ease of a shake of a hand. But some people, they put so much weight into their story that they need to have an experience in order to be in the space to let it go. And around the altar, when I combine this with the sound healing, I'm creating this space that is so far out of the realm of what they're used to experiencing that they give themselves permission to have the experience, and a healing can happen like that. I've seen people with cancer where it's just gone, and other people who just get a relaxing effect. People bring their own healing with them based on their allowance, and the purpose of the altar is to shift the space they're in so that they can be an allowance of the healing they brought with them.
Okay, so to kind of alter their thinking patterns, their
Correct.
beliefs.
If you want to bring into science, it's getting people into the theta state. There's different brainwave frequencies, and healing occurs in theta. And if you can get someone into theta for a prolonged period of time and they're having an experience in theta, that's where the magic happens.
Very interesting. So highly valuable to have this in your presence and in your healing work.
Absolutely.
During each meditation, we set up an altar. Now, an altar is an important source of energy for the meditation. This particular altar happens to have many skulls. So when we put these crystals together on an altar, they channel energy so that whatever we're meditating on can be amplified and can be brought out into the collective. The energy can be directed down into Mother Earth through intention. It can be brought down from the divine if you want to get messages, if you need healing, if you just want to connect with your higher self, with God, with the Creator, whatever you're comfortable calling it. So the altar is a very important part of meditations. So Ron, I know that you work a lot with goddess energy. So you're somewhat of a historian when it comes to different cultures.
Well, here we are in a patriarchal society, but at one point in time, people worship goddesses. So I was very young, thinking about these things. So, and then another small connection was the high school that I went to was in Minerva, and so Minerva was the goddess of wisdom and so forth, so this was like very close to me. So there's like these remnants of the goddess culture that are all around us. I think that we're in a time right now where, because of this imbalance, we see this manifested in the way that we treat the earth and our relationship with Mother Earth. So it's definitely important for us to see the return to the feminine energy, to see it rise. And we see this happening in various ways, within our culture. You see it reflected in movies and television and so forth. And even in, we see a lot of Facebook groups, on women, gathering together. And, so this is an important shift we see occurring right now.
Mm-hmm. And that's true for men too, right? Mm-hmm. Bringing forth their feminine energy, right. Because we all have masculine and feminine energy.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about the women, it's also about the men becoming more sensitive and getting more in touch with their emotions and so forth.
Correct, yes.
So I know throughout history that you can look at any culture and you see a lot of goddess statues and, all sorts of things honoring the goddess. Have altars been used to honor goddesses as well?
The feminine often is represented through the image. And so whenever you saw the decline of the goddess, a lot of times what they were attacking were the images, and associated with the masculine, at least in the Western world and religion and so forth, it was associated with the written word. So you have the three major religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, and they're anchored in their text. During the Dark Ages, when we have the decline of literacy, we see many cathedrals across Europe and so forth dedicated to Notre Dame, which is, Our Lady, and really kind of reflecting the return of goddess worship in that time. In modern times, what is it that's leading to us coming back to balance in a sense? So at one point in time, here we are anchored in literacy in a word, which is very left brain thinking. But now in our modern age, we've developed things like photography and movies, and of course we have the internet. And so these things help to balance the regions of our brains that we're using to process information. And I also would say that the internet is part of an emerging global consciousness that we're having as well. So us sharing information with each other and sharing all these perspectives is one of those things that, getting information out there, that's what's bringing us back to balance. And that's raising awareness, raising consciousness.
And that's what you do. You go around sharing information, doing talks on various different topics to facilitate healing.
Correct.
So Hank, would you consider shamanism as a form of religion as well?
I suppose loosely I would put it in the category of religion. And one thing I wanted to mention, talking about the return of the goddess, in the tradition, there's this thing called the divine diagonal. And I forget exactly what the year was, but it shifted from going this way down the mesa, representing masculinity, to this way down the mesa, which was bringing back the divine feminine. So even in this tradition of Peru, to parallel what you already shared, Ron, is that even in this tradition, it was showing that too. And that there was actually a change of where the energy was coming in, moving from Tibet to Peru. So just an interesting point. But yeah, at the end of the day, it would be, I guess, a religion, but it was all about the relationship with nature. It wasn't until the Spanish influence came in that they started having references and like despachos to Christ. In fact, that's one reason the tradition was preserved, because when the Spanish came in and they said, oh, there's this, this person called Jesus Christ, and they go, oh, cool, we knew that would happen, because their prophecy says that there will be this what they call a fifth level healer, someone that can heal every time with just a touch perfectly. And so they embraced the idea. And because they were embracing of it, they were able to keep a lot of their traditions.
Nice. So this is all very tied in together. I mean, it sounds like that earth healing and healing of humanity, it happens by being connected to each other. It doesn't happen with a disconnect from each other. And the feminine seems to be bringing in more of a connection with other human beings, with the earth, with each other, basically. And that's what our meditation was about when we did our meditation that we were talking about earlier, that we've been showing on our program here, was really about bringing people together and putting some education in there and some healing in there as well. So meditation is very simply taking some time out for yourself. If you've ever been in a crowded room or been having an argument with somebody and you just felt like, okay, I need to get away from this, I need a break, and you've gone off to a room by yourself, that in itself is a form of meditation. So everybody has done it at one time or another. But these particular meditations are a little bit more focused, and they give you a richer experience because you spend a decent amount of time in a meditation, which is self-care. And through these meditations, which have been incredibly powerful here, I've also incorporated the use of goddess energy. Now, goddess energy is types of energy that we all possess within ourselves. It's not unique to a particular goddess. If your belief system doesn't allow you to believe in goddesses, just know that that's simply a representation of a particular type of energy. For example, on our meditation on the 28th of June, Kuan Yin was called in. Now that is a heartfelt energy. It's the energy of love, compassion, mercy. We all have that capability. And through the meditation, we're able to bring that forward in ourselves. We're able to get in touch with that energy, and hopefully we can bring that to our daily life after the meditation, because it's more in our awareness. Hank, you brought your crystal skull, and I brought some of mine too, which also facilitate healing. Can you tell me a little bit about yours? And I know you said you had a crystal skull altar too.
And I just got this knowing I have to build a whole new mesa that's just honoring the skulls. And so I got a whole bunch of little skulls. I did a whole big despacho ceremony. There were people there that had pieces that had sat with all the great skulls of the world. And the idea was to do a karpai, which just means an exchange of information. And so using their imprint from when they were with the great skulls, I imprinted the mesa that I was building, and then I have that. And then this was a gift from my business partner, Melissa. She was at a gem show, and I said, I want something with a snake. And she found this piece of lepidolite that has an amaru. In this tradition, amaru means serpent. And it's believed that that's like our connection to the earth, because you feel the vibrations of Pachamama, Mother Earth. So it was like the combination of both the skull and the serpent, and they just went perfectly together. And he wouldn't give me the name, so I ended up naming him Tekse, which means cosmic or universal. And I wasn't even going to bring him today, and I just had the sense he's got to come. And then I realized, because he brought all your skulls, like that's why he knew there was a party. and he wanted to make sure he didn't miss out.
Absolutely. Well, they all look pretty happy sitting up there, for sure. Yeah. This is my skull, Mana. She came from Africa, actually, and she's been traveling around sitting with a shaman in Florida. And he has 2 ancient crystal skulls, and we talk a little bit about that in the presentation here. But with the skulls, they certainly raise the vibration, in my opinion. Do you feel like they've raised the vibration for your
Absolutely.
healing?
They almost have their own, they do. They have their own consciousness. And in shamanism, we believe that everything is conscious, and not necessarily conscious in the terms of awareness. I think skulls have awareness, but they believe that there's the animating essence that is in everything, and that's what they're referring to, that everything is alive, everything is part of this energy movement that we're experiencing. But think about how long the stones have been around. Yes. Way longer than humanity, and what energies and encodement do they have within them, that when you now shape them in the way of a skull and basically giving it its job, you're going to be a consciousness that can help guide us and give us inspiration and knowledge, that they take on a life of their own at that point. What was a rock now has become a personality. It's more than just the animating essence. There's a consciousness and awareness that they seem to have, that they can, because you can sit down and have a conversation with one, as I'm sure you know.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's why when I do my full moon meditations, I always bring my skulls with me, and they sit on the altar, and people are welcome to connect with them. And I've had some meditations where I've brought just one, and the people have all connected with that one particular skull. And then afterward, when we went around to share what the messages were, it was very interesting that everybody kind of got the continuation of the same message. For 12 people to not be speaking to each other and be in that space and get kind of the same, story, the same message, that to me was very compelling.
And they definitely advocate for themselves. And if you give yourself permission to have the allowance of having a conversation with, a stone, whether it's a crystal or just another type of physical representation of consciousness, it can open up a whole new world of knowledge and communion.
Yes, I agree with you. These are from the earth, just like we are. So it's from the stars too. So they have a lot of information, and there's so many interesting stories about them. I just find them completely fascinating. I was never interested in them at all, and then got interested in them a few years ago, and it's been really a compelling journey. So I'm happy to have all of them here with me today, all the ones that are present. There are many, many more, but they are very significant in the meditations, in the moon meditations that we do, and I feel like they offer a lot of healing. The idea of skulls being used in meditations is from ancient Atlantis, where it's believed that the Atlanteans programmed all of their knowledge into crystal skulls. Now, we do have crystals in our technology today, on our TVs and our phones, so it is common knowledge, although may not be commonly thought about, that crystals do hold information. These particular skulls that are present on the altar have been charged with the ancient crystal skull energy from skulls, which are 2,000 years old, that were found in a cave in Mongolia. That's pretty impressive. They've been passed down from shaman to shaman through the course of all those years. Each skull is connected to the other through its shape. Modern crystal skulls hold avenues of energy, almost like when you're thinking about your phone, 3G, 4G, they're different ways that information can get to you. Ancient crystal skulls hold 18 avenues of energy. Our technology hasn't even gotten that far yet. And when you put a modern crystal skull with an ancient skull, the ancient skull opens that modern crystal skull up to more Gs and more ways of communicating with you, which is why I choose to use these in my meditations. Each particular crystal holds a particular healing quality. If you scientifically look up crystals, you'll see that they have a particular vibration based on what minerals they're composed of. So when you are choosing a crystal for yourself, you want to choose something that you resonate with, something that appeals to you, and that tells you that you're choosing the right crystal. When we talk about this healing energy, and this is kind of a question for both of you, how did you get involved with this type of work? What made you interested in this?
Well, for myself, I'm a natural intuitive, and during childbirth, every time my mom would have a contraction, my heart would stop. And my mom had a near-death experience, and then right after my birth, they found that the placenta had disintegrated, and for all purposes, I should have been a stillborn. And I don't know exactly what happened to me in terms of my consciousness, but I believe that because I had that brush with death at an early age, I just had this natural affinity to being in that space, that healing space. And then I was also very empathic, so as soon as I could legally drink, I became a professional drinker for many years. Mm-hmm. And I got sober in 2006, and as I started doing my own inner work and healing, it kind of fell naturally into the space of what I was benefiting from and seeing in my own work, that I wanted to create the space where other people could experience that. And so I just kind of naturally went into the healing world, offering people what I was given from doing my own inner work. Mm-hmm. And working with people, and it was very natural. It wasn't like I woke up one day and decided I'm going to be a healer. It just was, I was following the energy of where my experience was leading me.
Even when you didn't realize that's what you were doing?
Even when I didn't realize that's what I was doing, that was just the nature of it. And then the universe, one way that God talks to us, or the universe talks to us, is through experience. And I worked in banking for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And the day that they closed down the bank, because the Bank of America bought MBNA and they were shutting down our site. In that moment, I'm looking at my Facebook feed on my phone, and there's an office that's open in Lakewood that they're looking for practitioners. So the day that one door literally closed, now I had an office, and I went from having this as being a part-time thing to being a full-time type of thing. And the universe just opens those doors for you if you're in allowance and awareness to notice them and follow them. Mm-hmm. It's all about following the energy, but in order to do that, we have to turn off the autopilot.
Yes.
Because so many of us are in the space of reacting instead of responding. And if you can take a step back and really choose all of your actions as a response and a choice, instead of letting the little robot on autopilot react for you, that's where all the magic happens. Magic's happening all the time. A lot of people are missing it because autopilot just passed it by.
Yes, I teach a class on developing your sixth sense too, and it's funny because the people who say to me, I can't do that particular thing, I can't do automatic writing, I can't read cards, I can't intuit things, that's usually the thing that they're best at doing. It's just that they have this block to doing it, and once you just release that, then you can follow the energy, and you don't even have to know where you're going, you just go. And you end up where you're meant to be, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And Ron, how did you get involved in healing work? Was there any one particular event that transpired, or was it kind of like Hank, where it was just a natural progression of things? Or
it's a long process. It actually started when I was little. So like my mother would tell me that there was something that, a type of healing that used to be done in my family. It was called powwow. And I don't think it's really like the Native American powwow. It's maybe like Pennsylvania Dutch, something like that. I found information about it online. But it was supposed to come from my grandfather, be passed down through my mother, and then go to me. So it skipped, like, you know, it went like to male, female, male. It's kind of interesting, which sounds very pagan in a way, based upon certain things that I've read. So there was that component. And then when I was around 6 years old, like first grade, I got childhood nephrosis, which was a kidney disease. Very much the same thing that Gary Coleman had on different strokes. But when I was going through that, the doctors, I was taking massive amounts of prednisone, and my mother went to her chiropractor, and he's saying, well, this drugs that he's taking, they're going to be depleting certain things from his body. So he needs like to have certain vitamins to replenish these things. So they were looking for certain symptoms that I would have as a result of taking the medication, like cataracts and so forth. And they weren't seeing them, we weren't finding them, you know. So my mother, she was doing some of the holistic things to help the healing. She just kind of naturally, intuitively had this ability. She also had a woman come and do reflexology on me as well. Which is another healing modality, you know, kind of rubbing the like hands and feet and getting the circulation going. And there's certain pressure points, energy, you know, that affects. So I learned that, and there were just certain times that my mother, you know, she would just be kind of like, you know, rubbing my head or something like that, you know, and you could just feel like this energy, you know. So around 2000, I was attending like a seminar up in, you know, I think Toronto, Canada, and there was someone there who was like an intuitive healer reader, and they put their hands on me and they're like, "You're a healer," you know. And I was like, "Oh, okay," you know. And at the time, I was really into psychology, and I was just thinking, "Oh, well, you know, functioning on this level, you know, with a person, you know, on a psychological level." You know, the word psychology derived from the word psyche, which means soul. So, you know, I was just thinking, well, we'll just use soul work. But more recently, you know, in the past few years, I've been working more with things like Reiki, you know, and exploring, doing healing in that sense. And I've seen it actually work. And you'll be working with someone and messages will come through and you'll communicate those to them, you know, and helping them on this healing process. You know, I've even learned that people can carry things even from past lives that they need healing from. It's not just anything that's occurred in this life. So I've also taken you know, shamanic class. We were in that together, and you know, really just someone else had given me a book about shamanism by Michael Harner, and as I read this book, I was like, oh, I've been a shaman my entire life. You know, I've had these things, but now it's like, now you're starting to listen, now you're starting to understand, and then you start incorporating these things, you know, into what you're doing. And so it's really about treating the whole person on every level. You know, there's physical, mental, spiritual, you know, so forth. That these are all the levels that healing occurs. So, and I think that, you know, even the mission that I feel that I'm partly on now is about healing the earth. You know, but that's about us partly having to heal ourselves first, you know, and then you're ready to be a part of that healing. So,
right. And I personally believe that everybody has their own healing abilities. It's just whether they're interested in exploring them or not. If they've had any sort of, you know, brush with a near-death experience, a significant illness. In my case, I had some life events happen that put me into a very deep depression for about a year and a half. That was very traumatizing and really difficult to come out of, and I'm still not exactly sure how it happened. But these things all kind of speak to going through some sort of trauma and then coming out the other side with the realization that there's something more to life than just what transpired for you, whether it's a health crisis or, you know, a depression or an addiction or whatever it happens to be. And isn't there something about when in shamanism where they talk about going through an initiation type process?
Well, in every type of tradition may be different. From the Paco tradition, there's the Hatan Karpai, which are a series of different initiations. And in their world, they don't do journeying like you drumming in a circle and projecting yourself out. You go to where the energies are naturally occurring. So you go to the cave, you go to the cliff, you do all these things. But part of the work is to go into the shadow. And those are the things that are in you, that's part of you, that we try to resist looking at, or it's uncomfortable. And one of the exercises is you just go in and you're in a space with no lights. There you might use a cave, here you could use a closet. You know, you just you yourself and your soul, and you sit with yourself. And you allow whatever comes up to come up. And you're in allowance of it. And that's the real key. Like when we start labeling what happened to us as a trauma, and it was so terrible what happened, and we're aligning and agreeing with the resisting and reacting to the experience, we lock it in place. When you're just an allowance of it, and you can go to, that's a very interesting thing that happened, versus having a judgment about it. Now you can move through it, and then it creates this space where, you know, from a distance, there's that song, God is watching us. From a distance, there's only harmony, and there's only love. When you're in the one-ality, there's no labeling of anything. When you're in the duality, we have these judgments, so we have to rise up out of that. Like, yes, we're having a duality experience where we have these perceptions of different things, but in the actuality of it, it's us that are labeling all that as good or bad. So it's about being an allowance of it and transcending that energy for it to just be an experience which you can use any way you wish. You can use it to heal others.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we're back to everybody being connected to each other. Working on yourself helps heal the earth. It helps heal the people around you just by being the very best self that you can be. You help other people because they're in your presence and they see that, and you never know what somebody takes away as inspiration from the way you handled a situation, or, you know, a smile that you gave to somebody could just be that simple. You don't even have to be thinking about it, and it happens naturally anyway. Yeah, I really like that. So what would you say to people who have never really been involved in this type of healing work before? I know, Ron, you must come across a lot of people when you're giving your talks that come maybe for the historical aspect of it, and then maybe get something more out of it, because there's always something amazing about the interactions that you have with people. So what would you say to somebody who might be feeling a little bit of resistance to, you know, hearing something or experiencing something that could bring them further on their path?
You create a space where they feel comfortable to open up. I've had certain times where I've been speaking at a place, and then afterwards people will come up to me and they'll tell me things in private that they don't necessarily feel that they can say publicly, because they're afraid of how they're going to be judged. But when you create a space where it's okay for people to, you know, let down their guard and to be themselves, then you'll find that their gifts start to come through. And they start to be able to share those and to understand that it's okay. Not only is it okay, it's a valid thing as well. And again, to me, this is also part of that process of balancing the masculine and the feminine, you know, because, you know, the masculine wants to say, in a sense, that everything has to be rational, logical, scientific, and so forth, that it has to be provable. And, you know, the more you work with these energies and so forth, you just kind of throw up your hands and you're going to say, you know, I just know that this is true. You know, I can't necessarily explain it, but you have to trust that, you know, that I guess in a sense that spirit is guiding you, is leading you, and it's everywhere around you. And once you tap into it, you don't really need to have a reason why. You just know that it is.
Yeah, I like that. And what about for you, Hank? What would you say to people that might be feeling a little bit of resistance to?
Yeah, there's a modality that I practice, and I believe you practice as well, called access consciousness.
Yes.
And there's many tools in access that can help with that, and it's a great starting point. So for the person that is feeling resistance or an uncomfortability, I would say, what if the most unkind thing you've ever done to you is judge you? Because a lot of times it's not just the worrying about the judgments of other people. Like, they're already judging themselves because of what they were taught as right or wrong, and they're their own worst enemy.
Right.
And so to suspend your disbelief, just take a moment and ask, what's right about this I'm not getting?
Mm-hmm.
And giving yourself the permission to be in the space that you're in and not judging it, and being, it's an interesting point of view that I have that point of view, and start to take the charge off, because then you create the space where you can have the comfortability to have a more vulnerable conversation, where you can start letting go of the things and start to transform and transmute what was heavy into something that's light.
Yes.
That's a great place to start. Even if you take none of the other tools that we talked about today, people can start to get into this binary communication with themselves, their inner self. Mm-hmm. And that could change everything.
And that's where it all begins, with the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Everything stems from the individual. Just start doing something for you, and
start choosing.
Yes, and
so many
it
people
goes
are just
out
in a
into the
place
world.
of they can't even make a choice, and they're frozen. So just start choosing. You can always change your mind.
Well, I love when my daughters do this. You know, they can't make a decision, so or you have two things you can't decide about, and you put your hands behind your back and you have somebody else pick, and then that's what you choose. It's not even about that. Like, once you've chosen that, you look at it and you know, actually, this is not what I want. So it's just to move, to make a choice, even if you don't know which choice to make. Make a choice and you'll know where to move, you know?
If you keep making choices that are going to create more and more lightness in your life, you can really start to exponentially change your experience and your reality and your life to something that has unlimited possibilities for
Right.
you and the world.
Yes.
How does it get any better than that?
I don't know. Let's find out, though. So, well, I appreciate you both being here today, and I love that we talked about different healing modalities and your own experiences in that as well. I've loved working with you both. It's been a real privilege, and my hope for all of this is that whoever would see this would come into a greater knowledge of what's available for them, to know that they're not alone, that there's a million different things that they could come out and try, and that that this is actually something that's doable, that they actually can heal themselves and make connections with other people and come together and make a big difference in the world without even doing a whole lot. I want to also thank all of you for joining us for this presentation. And as a gift, if you're interested, after the credits roll, there will be a meditation, the meditation that actually the three of us did together, as a gift to you if you'd like to participate. It's about 20 minutes long. So go ahead and watch the credits and get yourself comfortable, and we'll go right to that. Namaste.
That was, Michelle, I just got to say again, like, what a great job editing. I know it took so long, but when I watched that, it's like, it's so, what a good job you did. So thank you so much for putting that together.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. And it's so funny because we're talking about our own selves being our own worst critics. So I watched it, I'm like, oh, I wish I had taken that out, and I wish I had done that a little differently. But watching this, I will say the overarching feeling for me is I love working with you guys. I loved the collaborative effort. I'm excited to hear the meditation again, because I probably heard it a million times while I was editing, but I haven't heard it since I put it all together. And then it sat on the shelf for a year. And I thought, boy, I really should do something with this. And why aren't I doing anything with this? And then I realized that everything came together in divine timing. to put this out at this point in time when all these things are going on in the world, and it's so needed. And hopefully people will see it and realize, especially the idea of, wow, isn't that an interesting point of view? Instead of, gosh, I don't agree with you whatsoever, and you're blah, 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 blah. Just what an interesting point of view, and open ourselves up to the possibilities of everything, and so that we can come together as a whole. So I loved that.
And for everybody watching, if you have questions, if you have comments, that's why we're doing it this way. This has already been out for a couple weeks now on the TV station. I think Michelle has it on her YouTube channel. I have it on my YouTube channel, but we wanted to do it this way so we could be a little interactive if people do have questions. I saw a lot of comments during the presentation, but if you have any questions about something that was brought up, or really about anything, it doesn't even have to be about the show necessarily, but if you have something on your mind, all three of us have very different backgrounds and could probably offer a lot of stuff to it. But Ron, what was your watching it with us? What were your impressions of the video?
I think, Michelle did a great job, with leading it and interviewing and so forth. I think to me, I think it's so important. I think everybody has their own story to tell, and when they hear you tell your story, they're like, oh yeah, I understand that. I can relate, and they can open up about it and share their experience. And I just think those stories are so important and so powerful.
Ooh, and actually, another question, Michelle. Since you mentioned there were things that you saw that you wish were different, is there anything that was recorded that you wish was in there that you want to add now, just as we have the time and space for it?
I think that we hit like all the really important things. Of course, I could do a whole show with each of you individually and cover, hours more information because we have so much. There's such a depth of knowledge, I think, between the three of us that if people wanted to deep dive into something, we certainly could do that. I feel like everything was pretty much, pretty well covered. What did you guys think? What would you add if you could add something?
Well, I mean, initially, I did the presentation, the alphabet versus goddess. So there's all that content that people really didn't get to hear. That's based upon the book by Leonard Shlain called The Alphabet versus the Goddess. So if they want to delve into that deeper, then I would definitely highly recommend that book. It was just one of those ones that, I was in the bookstore and it just kind of jumped off at this shelf at me. And I'm like, oh, I have to read this book. There's something important here. And I think that I remember when I shared with you initially, it's like this light bulb goes off. There's this revelation there. It's like, oh, it all makes sense now. I completely understand. And if more people could just have that awareness and that awakening, would be really cool. So.
You make a good point. And unfortunately, we had started out with videotaping the entire event. And then with inexperience, and this is what we were talking about, just do it, just make a choice and move. And, that's what we did. We said, let's film it. And we filmed it. And I watched the footage and it wasn't usable because it was so dark. And, the microphone wasn't where it would really have needed to be to actually really hear you very well. And I could have given up at that point and said, well, I guess this is just not meant to be, but that didn't feel right. And I thought, well, so what can we do? What are we going to do? I don't want to scrap this. It was a good experience. And so, we filmed in the studio, and I went back to where we had done the meditation and filmed some little clips and things like that. And so it was a question of putting 3 videos together, and this was the outcome. So I think that's a good lesson too. It was a great lesson for me, and something that could be a takeaway for somebody watching this. If it doesn't turn out the way you think, so what? Keep going, and it could turn into something even better. And that's what this turned out to be. And I would love to actually do something again, like that's inspiration again, where it's mic'd correctly And there's a tripod for the camera so everybody doesn't look like this.
Right. Yeah. But there's been an evolution of my own presentations. At first they were just spoken word, and I was like, people need visuals. So I created PowerPoint presentations. Then we've gone into video, and I found it's actually very easy to make the transition to use those slides and then create a video presentation using that. So that's something certainly that I probably need to get going on, get that done, so we can share that with a wider audience on YouTube or something like that.
And if everybody watching wants to have that missing part of the whole history behind the goddesses, if you still have the PowerPoint, we could recreate the stream we're doing now and start with the PowerPoint. And then, we could really kind of recreate the event in a way, or not recreate, but just create something new that includes that, which would be really good. Because I see now I don't remember half of what you had talked about, but I know at the time I was like, oh my gosh, this just makes so sense. And it gave me a deeper appreciation for the goddess energy.
And I think that it's actually long enough. We could probably do it in 2 parts. So we could break it down into smaller chunks, and then we could actually talk about that, and the revelations that come from seeing that information.
And with the technology we have, it's very easy to do. We don't even have to be in the same place anymore.
That would be awesome. I would watch that. And I would love to do also another meditation with you, Hank. We talked about that before this. But if it was mic'd correctly and the video was actually there, with the, like I said, we could, why not just do some more?
Right.
And now I got all the equipment, because since COVID, I have been doing a ton of live streaming and have invested in all kinds of fun doodads and technology. So what else is possible? But everybody's quiet. I see people watching. So really, if you do have a question or a comment or anything at all, now's the time to speak up. Of course, you don't have to. Maybe everything was so complete that people are just like, I don't have a question and answer it all.
And what kind of numbers did we have, Hank? Because I can't see that from my perspective.
It was been up and down the entire time.
Yeah.
So, and it's, but the thing is that even like sometimes when I stream in the mornings, I might only have like 10 people on, but then when I look, like even the same day, it might be up to the 80s, because a lot of people watch on the replays, especially on with the day and time, where on Sunday at 5 o'clock, maybe people are off with dinners and who knows, family events and things like that. A lot of people will catch it later.
Yeah.
But thank you to everybody who's catching it live and being present with us now. It is so great to have like the live time interaction.
It's awesome. How about from the show that's been airing in Brunswick, Michelle? What kind of reception have you gotten from that, or feedback?
I don't actually see that, so I would have to call them. I would have to call the studio and see if there was anything, that they had received as feedback in order to get some of that. But I will do that now that you brought that up. That's a good idea. I miss those guys anyway. I saw them every week for, we met one day a week for over 2 years to get everything kind of compiled. And again, it was a learning curve. And I do want to say thank you so much to the people at Brunswick Area Television. They were incredible. They're so knowledgeable. They were so patient. And to Terry Fairbanks, who helped me edit it. Without him, there's no way I could have ever gotten this done. And he did that as a labor of love out of the goodness of his heart. I love the fact that there's such good people involved with this. It just makes the whole energy feel so good. And Will Kinghorn, who helped with ideas and suggestions for editing. It was really a big group effort, more than just us three. It was a lot of behind the scenes.
That's amazing. That's great.
Michelle, you just went international. Somebody from one of the Facebook groups, they're watching from Sydney, Australia. It's Monday morning and I'm at work, so I'm trying to listen to you guys while working and interacting with coworkers. So welcome. So glad that you are joining us from Australia, and other people tuning in and just saying thank you. Becky says, bravo, everyone. Would really be interested in watching the piece you're talking about. Thanks so much for this. Glad I finally tuned in. And an anonymous Facebook user from a group, amazing crystal skull information. Glad to see how helpful and positive. Thank you, Hank, Brown, and Michelle. And then we got another me too from Sydney, Australia. It's interestingly enough, I noticed on my podcasts, which are just the audio versions, I've had like a ton of downloads recently from Australia. So it's like, I'm glad that folks in Australia are tuning into what we're doing here too, and it's a global world now, right? So
Yes, and I want to say my friend Michael Eric, he says the video production looked very professional, well done. Well, he's like a movie producer, so I'm gonna say that's high praise. So thank you so much. We'll take
I
that.
second that. It really was. I mean, I couldn't even. It would take me 5 years to do what you did, probably, because video editing, I've had such a resistance to. It took me like 45 minutes to edit out a 15-minute segment from that 12-hour stream I did a while back, and it was not intuitive to me at all. Like, I could build a website in a day, but video editing, it's like me hitting a brick wall. I don't know what it is, but I'm glad that you have learned all that.
Well, I think Terry was the one. I said, I don't like this part, and Terry would take it out. And I said, well, in this, there's too many ums in this part, and he would take it out. And I'm like, and the camera looks like it's kind of fallen off a cliff, and he'd straighten it out. So I just was the director, and Terry did all the hard work, I think. But it was really lovely. I loved working with everybody. I can't express enough how absolutely wonderful this whole experience was, and I really hope that the people watching feel that too.
Yeah, I think with just a few people that have made comments, I think that that is a testament to what a lot of people might be thinking, but just not able to comment at this time, or or people they'll tune in later and finish watching it. I know I've done that a lot of times. You find a video you really like, and you'll start watching it, and then something happens with the kids, and you got to go take care of something. So. We got another person, and everybody in the Facebook groups, there is a link that says share your information with StreamYard, and then if you do that, we will see who you are, not just like a mysterious Facebook user. But they say still fairly new to crystal energy / healing, so great information. Thank you guys. You're very welcome. Love all the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can go to any of our Facebook pages. Mine is Come Home to Your Heart, and there are some lives on there with crystal skull energy and meditations that you can access anytime. I love putting out new things that are live, and I plan on doing more of that. So if you're interested in the crystal, crystal healing, it might be fun to watch that. We'll keep that in mind. I'll do another live with that.
Yeah. For sure. And then I know Casey and I did a part with Michelle, and that's on our YouTube channel, Stir Crazy Shamans. I have like 3 YouTube channels, but I'll post a link to that on the Sonic Shaman page where we had Michelle on as a guest, and you can check that out. Because there was even something that you had, I believe, channeled that you shared with us that was really profound. So that's definitely something else that people should tune in for. And that was all from Mana, your crystal skull, which I don't see her. I thought you would have her in the camera shot, but she's so heavy, it probably would be hard.
She's just right here. She's just right here. She's just hanging out, listening, but she is here. But yes, that was, I liked doing that with you and Casey. That was a lot of fun. And crystal skulls are pretty amazing, and the downloads that are coming from them are incredible, and things that I don't know myself. So to write it down, and it just, they start talking and I start writing, and I'm not even paying attention to what I'm writing, and then all of a sudden it's done, and I go back and reread it, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty intense. Good stuff.
And Ron, have you gotten into crystal skulls at all? I know, like, I never thought I would be into skulls, and then all of a sudden I have a lot, and every time I buy one, I'm like, okay, this is it, and then I end up buying more. Have they called to you as well in any way?
To me personally?
Yeah, I'm just curious. You don't have to like crystal skulls.
I'm probably kind of like more like a historian, so I'm interested in the stories. I'm interested in Mayan culture. I studied that some. I've studied like connections between them. Like when I was visiting the Hopi, there's like trade routes that were established and so on. And then some people make connections between serpent mounds, which is close to us. So those are the things that fascinate me, just like the historical context. So it's really cool. I actually know one of the Mayan calendar keepers as well. Her story itself is just very fascinating. She was like very little. She showed up on a beach, and the guy who ended up teaching her the Mayan calendar, he's like, well, the stars told me I'm supposed to meet you today, and I'm supposed to teach you. And then later on, he says, and you're also like a goddess as well. It's come down to earth, and it's just a fascinating story. So that stuff I really get excited about. So
Well, you give a lot more richness to the stories behind the skulls because I know like the ones that are really well known, they have like this whole big backstory, like Crystal Skull Max, and I know Michelle sat with another one that happened to be up at Lilydale, and it's just really interesting how they came to be so revered. And that's not something that I've ever focused on, but I love that you do, so you can give me like the Cliff Notes version of what's important to know.
Oh yeah, the Mitchell Hedges skull was found in the 20s, I believe, and that one travels all over the world. And Mana has sat with that one. And yeah, Ron, I would think. I mean, the Mayan history, that's the legend that's passed around that the 12 skulls will come together again, and the 13th one, and they'll sit in circle, and the 13th one will appear and connect them all. And when the earth is ready, the people of the earth are ready, the information will be given to them that the crystal skulls hold. And I have been getting from my skulls that that time is now. And it doesn't mean that they have to all come together physically, although that would be really interesting. But for them to come together, and I think it's also symbolic of us as a culture, as throughout the entire world, us as a people coming together and releasing the knowledge that we've been giving, releasing the divinity. And when you talk about, the second coming of Christ, to me, that means activating the Christ within all of us. And that happens when we all come together and respect each other and respect our differences.
And I think that's, really where we're at right now, is that we are becoming one world culture. So those divisions that maybe existed between us before, we're all teaching each other, we're educating each other, and that's changing us. And so that's what's leading us into building the new world.
That makes me think of two things. One, there's a prophecy in Peru that they call it the Rainbow Tribe of Man, that man comes back together and starts sharing their knowledge and start working together. But they also had this prophecy of the condor and the eagle, two birds of war flying in peace.
Right.
And I was at Lilydale doing a workshop where I built a despacho, and I went to a sweat lodge where normally they are very against mixing ceremonies of any kind. And someone had even already asked for me ahead of time if I could burn the despacho using the fire for the sweat lodge, because you have to burn it within 24 hours. And he was like, absolutely not, absolutely not. But then when I got there and I asked with authenticity, his spirits told him, yes, do it. And then we in the lodge, I told that prophecy, and it was like a beautiful representation of a Southern culture and a ceremony coming together with a Northern, which would normally never happen. And that was kind of like, for me, like this moment that shows that it's really happening, that it's all starting to come together and mesh, even where there's a lot of resistance for it.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I was at a gathering in Illinois. I think it was not the past year because of COVID, but like the year before. And we had people from, all different tribes, and, we're all kind of like, in a way, we're starting the healing process, of our different cultures, coming together. And it's such a beautiful thing to see, but it's something that we have to work at, though. It doesn't just come naturally, but we know that's something that we have to do.
Yeah, and when you say that one world culture, what I see when you say that is a bunch of different threads coming together and weaving together to create a beautiful tapestry of differences. It doesn't mean everybody becoming the same. It's just weaving together the differences and appreciating the beauty in all of that, and how much we can work together and how much we can learn from each other if we choose that.
Right. Yeah, I think the differences between us in large degree exist only in our head, and by talking, by communicating, we take down those barriers. We realize we're not so different after all. We're all pretty much the same. We have the same values. So why wouldn't we want to build upon that relationship and make something better, new? So.
Awesome. And for everybody watching too, what I'm going to do, like I have a link tree, So if you look at this, the website is linktr.ee/the Sonic Shaman. I will put links up for Michelle and for Ron for other things right after the broadcast. I'll put all that up there. So if you want to connect with anyone, there'll be one place that you can go. Because I know I don't have the banners ready for everybody's website. I should have. I'm a bad streamer today because I didn't think about that. I will put it all in my link tree. So if you want to connect with anyone, direct links to their websites will be there. But, this is so much fun. We definitely have to stream more together.
Yes. Yeah.
Amen.
I think we've got a lot of resources that we can draw upon. So there's more to come. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
What else do we want to add for everybody watching after this Q&A portion? What we're going to do is play the rest of the video, which is that 20-minute meditation that you'll be able to enjoy. But this is your chance still to ask questions, make comments, or if Michelle or Ron have any questions we can ask questions to each other. We've already been doing that. Is there anything else that you feel we need to contribute here to make the stream complete? Not that it isn't already.
I think it's great what we have so far. So
awesome. I'm having a ton of fun.
Yeah, this is really fun. I've never done this before. It's just cool to be on with both of you guys and to have all the people watching that are watching and participating. And it feels so good.
Even people being naughty, listening to us while they work. That's even better.
Well, actually, that's probably the perfect place for this energy to come through because we're all receivers and transmitters. So the person doing that is receiving the energy and transmitting it out. It's perfect because that's what's happening. So,
interestingly enough, like in Access, like some of the CFs, like Heather, I don't know if you met Heather or not, but she was saying that she's been getting her response to doing like foundations online and stuff like that, which is a type of class in Access. The people who have taken it have seen huge effects and change in their homes because they're in the space and there's an additional effect. So when we're live streaming and we're going to people's homes and people's works instead of them coming to a particular place, it may have a much more dynamic effect on the entire household. So that's a kind of a cool thing about COVID too, finding the blessed in the mess.
Well, and I love it because I don't have to drag my crystal skulls everywhere with me. The energy's all just right here and it's coming through the screen. So it's a lot less heavy. Literally.
Yeah, poor Michelle. When she would come to the center, she would have this suitcase and I would come help lift it out of the car. And this thing is just very well. How heavy is Mana anyway?
Mana, my crystal skull is 44 pounds. Yeah.
44 pounds. Yeah. It's and then she found the coolest suitcase for it because it's like one of the Days of the Dead suitcases. So there's skulls on it. So it's in a skull suitcase. And why don't you, if you don't mind, because it's such a great story, like how you came to have Mana and the airport story. Because you saw in the video, I said that skulls advocate for themselves. And it's like a great example of that.
Yeah. The airport story you want to know? That's really funny.
Yeah.
So I was taking Mana to Florida to sit with my friend who's a shaman there, and he has two of the ancient crystal skulls that were found in a cave in Mongolia and have been passed down for 2,000 years from shaman to shaman. Like, you can't just say that you want them. You have to go through this whole vetting process. And I had seen those crystal skulls, and that's what got me interested in them to begin with. I mean, I was literally called to Florida. I have a friend who lives there, and she was on the post a little while ago. My friend Becky lives in Bradenton, and she kept on telling me, come down, come down, come down. And I kept putting it off, because we all have things to do. And then one day I was taking a shamanism class with Don Miguel, I think, I don't want to, I think it's Don Miguel Ruiz. Right. And which was amazing. And I got, you need to go to Florida. And I thought, oh yeah, okay, whatever. And then I heard it again. You need to go to Florida. And I went, okay, I will go to Florida. And then I heard, you need to go to Florida this weekend. And I thought, really? Like, I'm in a shamanism class. I need to go to Florida this weekend. And they said, yes. And I was like, okay, I got off the shamanism class and I texted my friend Becky. I said, I'm coming to Florida this weekend. And she said, cool. And so I think that was on a Monday, and on Thursday I was on a plane to Florida. And I got there and I said, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I just heard I was supposed to come. And she's like, okay. And she took me to meet Jeff. And right from the airport, I met the crystal skulls. They were very touching to my heart. I felt like I wanted to cry. I did actually cry when I saw them. And as the weekend went on, we ended up going to a crystal skull show he was having. And I saw a crystal from behind that I thought, God, that's really neat. And I asked to see it, and he picked it up and turned it around, and it was a crystal skull. And I said, oh, this is a crystal skull. I'm not interested in them. Here, you can take it back. I don't want that. And he was like, okay. I was like, yeah, it's kind of neat, but I'm not really into that. And then, I was leaving on a Tuesday, and Monday night he was having a meditation, spring equinox meditation. And we were going to go. We went. We agreed we were going to go on Monday night. I'm going to leave Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. And Monday came, and I woke up and I said to my friend, I know we're going to Jeff's tonight, but I have to go there now. And she loves me and she knows me. And so she's like, okay, take my car, just go. She doesn't ask me any questions. And I get there, and Jeff was standing there, and I said, he looks at me, he says, aren't I seeing you tonight? And I said, you are. I don't have any idea why I'm here. I'm just supposed to be here. And he said, well, look around and see, what called you? And I said, okay. And he's walking away, and out of my mouth comes the phrase, do you have that crystal skull that I looked at the other day? And I literally thought to myself, who in the world said that? Because it was not me. I mean, it came out of my mouth, but I wasn't thinking about the skull. I wasn't, none of it. I didn't even think twice about it. And I'm thinking, what in the world? And as I'm standing there trying to figure out where these words came from, so now my judgment about crystal skulls is not happening because I'm in wonder. I'm in wonder of what in the world just happened here. And he hands me the skull that he had gotten. He hadn't even unpacked it from the van. And I held it in my hand, and I looked at it, and I looked at its face, and I felt such a love. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's the love that I feel for my dog. Like that unconditional, just pure love. And I looked at him and I said, oh my gosh, I think this is mine. And he said, yes, it is. And, I bought the skull. I took it home. He's sitting in my case over here. And that was the beginning of my journey with crystal skulls. And with the meditation that I did with him, he said, I'm here to make sure that you follow your path. And then I ended up getting Mana, who's 44 pounds, and I was taking her to Florida to see my friend, the shaman, to sit with the ancient crystal skulls to get attuned to their energy. And I thought, well, this will be interesting going through customs. So we're going through customs, and I'm just honest. I said, there's a crystal skull in my suitcase. It's rather large, but, I'm just telling you ahead of time that it's there. And they were just like, okay. They open up the suitcase, and they're like, well, we don't actually know what to do with this. And I silently said to Mana, you're going to have to advocate for yourself, because I don't know that I can actually do all this. You're going to have to do what you do and make sure that you can get on the plane and get home. And they had to call the supervisor. The supervisor came out and looked at it because it showed up as a black thing on the x-ray because you can't see through stone. And she goes, well, I guess you can see through it. And I'm like, mm-hmm. I'm at this point, I'm saying nothing. Mana's doing all the work. And she goes, yeah, you can go ahead and go through. And so I took her to Florida, and she sat with the ancient crystal skulls, and we took her to the beach, and we did healing in the water for the red tide that was going on at that time. And there were horses that were taking people into the water, like healing horses right at the place that we chose to go. And it was really amazing. And on the way home, I swear, I think the people at the Florida airport have just seen it all, because they were just like, oh, yeah, it's a crystal skull. Go ahead.
I'm just seeing the skull on the beach with a sombrero and a drink by its side.
That's funny. She doesn't drink.
It's a version daiquiri, something like that.
Yeah, I could see her wearing the sombrero though.
You remember what the last time you had that happen, right?
Yeah. That's funny. Well, thanks for asking about that story, Hank. That
It's
was
great.
fun to
And I know
know.
we don't have them ready, but there's even pictures of Mana like on the beach and everything that I have seen
Yeah.
that you've shared before. So next time when we do a stream about skulls, maybe there can be a whole stream just on that, and we can be prepared with some pictures to show people about the skulls escapades.
Yeah, well, actually, the picture of her on the beach is in the presentation. So if they want to go back and rewatch that.
Oh, I missed it. Oh, see, I was paying attention too. I was watching the whole thing and I missed it. That picture was in there.
That's okay.
All right. Anything else before we play the meditation portion of the video, guys?
Nope, sounds good to me.
All right. So we'll switch back to this view and I'll put it all to the screen first. But if you guys enjoy, this will be the meditation from June, was it 28th, 2018? Somewhere in there.
June 2018. Yep.
Okay, perfect. And enjoy, guys.
Kuan Yin. I am love. I am mercy. I am compassion. I am peace. I am everything. I am always with you. I am always within you. I am in and within everything. I am your servant. I am your guide. I am everything. I am forgiveness. I forgive. I am love. I love. I am mercy. I am merciful. I am compassion. I am compassionate. I am everything. I am present in the air you breathe. Breathe. Breath is life, and what is life but love? To come home, one does love. To be home, one is love. Home is love. I am love. You are love. We are love. All is love. Breathe. I am the vision you seek. See me. I am the words you speak. Speak me. I am the action you take. Be me. I am the thoughts you think. Embody me. I am omnipresent. I am all things. All you believe is not love is love. All you believe is love is love. I am love. I am everything. I am what is seen and unseen. See me in everything. The insect, the rain, the earth, the being. I am all there is. Forget what you think you know and know me. In knowing me, you know yourself as you have been created to be. Breathe. Feel the energy of love awaken in you. Feel your cells expand. Feel your understanding expand. Feel your heart expand. Feel your capacity to give and receive love expand. Know the gift that is you. In so doing, you now expand your consciousness of the gift that is other than you. Breathe. See love now in what you once believed was not love. Shine light on the illusion, and may your vision forever be changed to see love in everything. I am everything. You are everything. we now send down into Mother Earth to benefit the earth and all of her beings. And at the same time, we reach out to our friends, our family, our communities, our countries, the people in our world, with the intention that they have access to peace, love, compassion, and mercy, and the awareness that that is present for them to call upon in every moment. As you feel called, come back to yourself. And if you'd like, you can take some time to write down any insights that you received from your meditation.
While you come back, I just want to take a moment to thank all the energies that we work with. Iari Pachamama, Nike, 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 Nike means thank you. Iari Pachamamita, this spirit of the land where we're holding this. Nike, Nike, Nike. Iari Mama Kia, Iari Mama Unu, Iari Mama Kocha. Nike, 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 Iari Mustakuma, Nike. Iari Texelerku, Nike. Iari Waira, Woka Waira, Nike, 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 Iari Taiwanta Waira, Nike, Iari Hatatsuna Kuntar, Nike, Iari Sawikinti, Nike, Iari Inti, Inti Taita Woka, Inti Taita, Nike, 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 Iari Quichi, Nike, 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 Iari Bodhisattva Kuna, Nike, Iari Buddha Kuna, Nike, Iari Kuan Yin, Nike, Nike, Nike. And also Nike, 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 Katari, your own unique voice in this world. Nike, Nike, Nike. Hiari Waragocha. Nike, Nike, Nike.
All right. Well, we're back. Ron had to drop off, and I didn't know if we would talk again, but we're here, so we can. And I just want to thank you again for putting that together. It's amazing how intense the bowls were, actually, because I have a hard time capturing them on audio, but you did it very well.
Yeah, I mean, I could feel it as I'm sitting here listening again. It just felt like the whole thing felt very heart opening to me, and the crystal bowls, real, I could feel them all over my body. And I just want to say to people that, you know, the meditation that came through, the spoken meditation, was all channeled meditation. That was not something that was done ahead of time. That was what was coming through when I asked for the energy of Kuan Yin to be present. And I feel like the crystal bowls really amplified everything and added such a beauty to it.
It certainly did. I was going to ask you if you had written that or if it was channeled, and you answered it without me having to ask. Funny how that works out. No, for you brave souls, because a lot of people I know probably weren't ready to sit down for a meditation, and they might be doing it later, but for you brave souls that stuck it out with us the whole time, do you have any other questions or comments? And thank you so much for your presence. Assuming you're all the same people, you might be different people that are watching, and you have no idea the context of everything. But if you have questions, certainly we're here to answer them for you. And if not, that's great too. This has been so much fun, Michelle. We got to definitely do this more often. And what other amazing things can we create together?
Yes, let's find out.
We'll give a minute just to see if any, because there's about a 30-second or so delay between us saying that and people hearing it. So we'll give a minute or two. Anything you'd like to add to all this to kind of wrap it all up?
I'm just really grateful for the people who took the time to listen to this today and in the past and in the future. And I want you all to know that this energy is available to you whenever you watch it, and that you can tune back in, do the meditation anytime you like. The show, you can download the show from the Brunswick Area Television website, and you can keep it and you can listen to it again, or you can just listen to the meditation again and do it. But that energy is there, and it will always come through to you whenever you tune into it.
Yeah, it's also available on Michelle's YouTube channel, which is Come Home to Your Heart, and my YouTube channel, which is The Sonic Shaman or Emergence of Being. Either one, it's on all three. But I think this version is the coolest because it got to have you, me, and Ron on kind of talking about the experience of creating it and all the effort that went into creating it over 2 years of holding space for this creation. And to your point, I think it was perfectly timed for when it got released. And I mentioned this off air. I had literally just reached out to a friend remembering about this collaboration. I'm like, oh, we filmed all this material. I wonder whatever happened to that. I hope it comes out one day. And like the next day, Michelle messages me, it's all done. Here's the link for it. And it was just like perfectly timed. I asked a question and then boom, it was being produced, or being published, I should say.
Yeah. And I do want to say too, to recall how well we all worked together, because that was not rehearsed. None of that was rehearsed. It just completely flowed. The conversation that was in the studio, the event just kind of flowed. This just kind of flowed. And it feels good when you're in the flow.
Yeah, and Becky's tuning in, or still tuned in. Beautiful meditation. Great to hear you and your bowls, Hank. Thank you both so much. And you have no idea like how much the space is amplified with crystal skulls. And I don't know if you know, Michelle, but since this collaboration, I've ended up having a skull for each part of my mesa. And then I figured, oh, I'm done because I have one for all these. But no, then I got 3 lava ones, and then I got 2 other ones, and it just keeps increasing. I don't mean to do it. I'm at Goddess Elite, and all of a sudden I'm walking around and I have a skull in my hand. And Melissa's like, oh, are you getting that? And I'm like, I wasn't planning to. I didn't even know I picked it up.
They have a way of calling you, Hank, and you listen. I know. Same here.
Yeah, I never thought it would be so into skulls, but I am. So they're great little allies and contributors in and of themselves. But any final questions, guys? Thank you so much, really, for sticking out with us for over almost 2 hours now, coming up on the 2-hour mark. This has been so much fun. Can't wait to see what else we can create.
I know. And you guys are all helping create it too at the same time. You're contributing your beautiful energy. So thank you all so much for tuning in.
Yep. And another way you can contribute is to share the video, whether you like sharing on Facebook, starting a watch party, sharing from the YouTube page, because YouTube views all help Google think we're relevant. Either way, sharing it makes Facebook, Google think it's relevant. If you like, comment, share, all that really helps for it to be served up to more people organically. So that is a great contribution you can be to us in our efforts to get this information out to a lot more people. So a Nike, which means thank you, thank you, thank you in Quechua. Or even one politer, pichai sonkolai, which means a dove from my heart to you.
Oh, I love that.
I'm a Quechua nerd sometimes.
That's cool.
All right. But I guess we can wrap up again, or you should wrap up, because this was your inspiration and your creation. So after you say whatever else you say, I will just hit end broadcast and we'll be all done.
Okay. Well, thank you, Hank, so much for putting this all together and for getting all the mechanics figured out. Thank you for hosting this. I appreciate, thank you to Ron, who had to go, but we couldn't have done it without you either. And very much thank you to the crystal skulls and ascended masters, goddess energy that was present during our meditation and is here again today. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I really appreciate your presence. It makes my heart happy that people can benefit from this. And may love go with you everywhere that you go. Namaste.
Awesome. Namaste. Bye, everyone.